right away as I parked, U.S. Marshals started coming toward my car saying that I wasn't allowed to be parked there. And he said, well, we're going to have to arrest you because you're being very uncooperative. I said, well, you're going to have to arrest me because I'm going in there, and I'm telling you right now, I don't see none of y'all in there. Y'all are standing with snipers, and y'all are far away. If y'all don't go in there, I'm going in there. He immediately put me in cuffs.
She says after Uvalde police officers told marshals to uncuff Gomez, she ran towards the school.
As soon as they uncuffed me, I jumped that first gate fence, and once I jumped it, I went to my son's class, and I knocked on the door, and I remember the teacher saying, I'm like, hey, they're already bulge cutting the fence to get me. She's like, you think we have time to get out? I said, y'all have time. I'm going to run for my other son.
Once she was assured her son was okay, Gomez ran to get her other child.
I see that they're opening my son's door. I go run for my son and I get him.
With both of her kids out safe, Gomez still can't shake the thought of those who didn't make it.
The gunshots were still active. They were not in there. There was no one in there. If anything, when I pulled up, my car was closer to the school than where the snipers and everybody that was laying on the ground were. They could have saved many more lives. They could have gone into that classroom and maybe 2 or 3 would have been gone, but they could have saved the whole class. They could have done something. Gone through the window, sniped them through the window. I mean, something, but nothing was being done. If anything, they were being more aggressive on us parents that were willing to go in there. And like I told one of the officers, I don't need you to protect me. Get away from me. I don't need your protection. If anything, I need you to go in there with me to go protect my kids. And if anything, they were being more aggressive on us. They were more pertained on keeping us back than getting into that school.
Uvalde mom who saved kids from the school shooting now says that police are threatening her. That's right, the clip that you just saw was of the mother giving interviews to the media, and the police now want her to stop that, essentially because it exposes them. She says that last week, police threatened to violate her probation for speaking about the incident to reporters. After speaking critically about the incident to media outlets, Gomez said an officer threatened to charge her for violating probation in an unrelated charge for obstruction of justice. However, she added that she spoke to a local judge who assured her that she was brave and that she would not face any legal repercussions for sharing her story. So thankfully, a judge has sided with her and not these cops and correctively called her brave. And you know who else was very brave throughout this whole thing is the Border Patrol agent who actually ran in there and took this guy out. You know, what the Texas police weren't willing to do, or at least were ordered not to do. Well, how are those guys being treated these days? Well, as we see here now, thousands of unvaccinated Border Patrol agents are now fearing for their future, folks. The Biden administration could terminate thousands of Border Patrol agents who have refused the coronavirus vaccine in the coming days. President Joe Biden's September 2021 mandate that all federal workers be fully vaccinated was put on hold in court in January, but another court reversed the decision in April, putting agents back up for termination. And again, guys, remember it wasn't long ago when everybody was calling me conspiracy theory for even bringing up the word mandate, and yet here we are, folks. Here we are. So we're going to look at that. We're also going to look at this. Right now, the #1 trend in Canada on Twitter is Trudeau is destroying Canada, and I love to see that. Obviously, there's a lot of reasons and ways that he has been destroying Canada, which we'll talk about in this video as well. We're also going to look at this, guys. Special Forces flights over Ottawa protest offer lessons for military communications. In case you didn't know, there were some very high-tech military planes flying over the Ottawa protest, and these planes have the capability of following individuals in a protest and even disabling their devices. So we're going to take a close look at that, guys. We'll also look at this. Remember Kyle Rittenhouse? Well, he's taken it to the media and big tech. As we see here, it's time to make the media and big tech pay for what they did to me. I want them to think twice before defaming another kid they've gotten too big, too partisan, and too comfortable lying about and trying to destroy everyday regular Americans. So that's going to be very, very interesting to follow. And lastly, guys, we're going to take a look at this exclusive, the family of a Bill Clinton advisor who admitted Jeffrey Epstein into the White House 7 times, has blocked the release of files detailing his death scene after he was found hanging from a tree with a shotgun blast at a ranch 30 miles from his home. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The guy who was Bill Clinton's advisor and who signed Jeffrey Epstein into the White House, he authorized that, was found hanging from a tree with a shotgun blast in his chest. His family's claiming it's a suicide, and they don't want the images getting out to the public. Nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here. So we're going to look at all of that and much more in today's video. But before we do, I just quickly ask that you check me out at pressfortruth.ca/donate if you appreciate my efforts to bring you this info. There's lots of options here for how you can contribute. Thank you so much to everybody who does. Once again, links are located in the description below if you want to get involved. All right, guys, so it's just, you know, pretty crazy that this mom is being threatened by the police while she's just going around telling her story about how she was, you know, handcuffed and blocked from going in and getting her kids. And luckily, this judge did side with her and not with the cops. But as we said, it was the Border Patrol agent, which was the ones who had to end up going in there to do what the Texas police weren't doing. And now these guys are literally facing termination, the ones who decided not to embark on this forced medical experimental program. Internal data from U.S. Customs and Border Protection shared with Washington Examiner shows that nearly 4,000 of the 21,000 total agents admitted to being unvaccinated as of late November, shortly after the government required that all employees disclose their status. So they had to tell them, and 4,000 of them did so. President Joe Biden, his mandate in September that all federal workers be fully vaccinated was put on hold, but the court reversed that, putting them back up for termination. The bar is now lifted, and the federal agencies are now clear to proceed with whatever disciplinary actions they were going to move on with respect to unvaccinated people. So, yeah, their livelihood is potentially going to be in question again for not undergoing this forced medical tyranny is what we have to really call it, because that's what it is, guys. When you are being told that you can't have your job and therefore can't provide food for your family and continue to have a roof over your head, well, that's essentially mandatory. You know, a lot of people don't really have an option at that stage in the game. So, again, this is something I've been warning about since the very beginning. So it should be no surprise to PFT viewers that we're actually here. But something you may not have known about is the controversy surrounding the use of these planes and how the Trudeau government is allegedly saying it was just a training exercise, just a drill. But we're going to look a little bit closer at that in this Ottawa Citizen article. As we see here, ill-timed Special Forces surveillance training flights over the so-called Freedom Convoy protest in Ottawa in January and February exposed continuing problems with Canadian Air Force's public communications. What a terrible opening opening to this article. Ill-timed Special Forces surveillance training flights. Like as if they just accidentally did this. And I hate how they always call it the so-called Freedom Convoy protest. No, it was the Freedom Convoy protest in Ottawa. That's what it was. Not so-called. That's exactly what it is. First observed by Ottawa-based open source researcher Stefan Watkins, the unannounced flights were conducted by Canada's Special Operations Forces in contracted U.S.-registered King Air surveillance aircraft. The Special Forces have acquired 3 of a newer model, with the first to be delivered this summer, costing over $80 million each. The planes have high-tech electro-optical suits that can precisely track and target human activities on the ground. The aircraft can intercept electronic communications, including cell phones, and this is actually pretty dinosaur technology. They can already do this stuff from satellite dishes. They can monitor your individuals' activities and disrupt their cell phones and communications and stuff like that. They don't necessarily need planes, but that's not to say the Canadian military isn't playing around with these things, because they clearly are. Since mid-2015, when the Chief of Defense Staff, now retired, General John Vance, ordered the operations of military public affairs, the armed forces have been beset with poor military strategic communications. Many of the recent problems stem from multiple allegations of sexual misconduct, including against Vance himself and other misbehaviors. But there were numerous other self-inflicted issues. In 2020 alone, there were 4 formal investigations into military strategic communication missteps. There were also a review of the misguided plans to target Canadians with propaganda. Remember that, guys? Led by the military's public affairs branch, a 5-year project to create a formal military strategic communications group that included psychological operations staff was abruptly shut down by Vance in November of 2020. Chief of Defense Staff General Wayne Eyre and then Deputy Minister Jody Thomas later deemed the project incompatible with federal policy and lacking in strategic level direction, guidance, and oversight. And this article makes it look like the whole thing was just kind of abandoned when in fact it hasn't been whatsoever. It is continuing, and they carried it out in real life, these propaganda operations. If you didn't see this, guys, you need to see it. Canadian military fake wolves fear campaign exposed, but you won't believe what they're doing next, keyword. And I expose this. The Canadian military has been caught using psychological warfare to scare their own people into believing that there was an immediate threat from wolves in the area. They even went so far as to instill loudspeakers that would produce wolf sounds in order to fully sell this threat to the people of Nova Scotia. And now, on the heels of being caught manipulating the public, the Canadian government just announced that they will soon be creating a new organization to use propaganda and other techniques to influence Canadians. In this video, Dan Dix of Press for Truth explains how this propaganda will work and is working, and what its intended goals are, and what you can do to help stop the spread of government-sponsored misinformation. My friend James Corbett ended up having me on his show to interview me about this to get some, follow-up details. Dan Dix Press for Truth joins us to delve deeper into this insane story of the Canadian military fake wolves psyop. We go beyond the ludicrous story of the government using fake wolves to scare people to discover that the Canadian military is now openly announcing that they are targeting the Canadian public themselves with their newly weaponized public affairs department. The Canadian military has declared war on Canada. Will Canadians even notice? And certainly, I don't think they are, because they are willing to accept this story that it's just essentially a training exercise. If it was this training exercise, then who were they training on? What was the exercise? I mean, it's flying over thousands of people protesting in Ottawa during one of the most probably controversial protests in Canadian history, and we're led to believe that it was actually conducting a training exercise, but not anything to do with them, something to do with something else. I mean, it's crazy what Trudeau wants you to believe in regards to this, and maybe this is why Trudeau is destroying Canada is trending right now. And as I said, there's so many reasons. I mean, we know he's been, raised with the silver spoon in his mouth, practically like royalty, with his father being the former prime minister. He's this feminist social justice warrior who kind of, weaved his way into this whole thing by, just supporting the current thing. He's that kind of guy. Like when he first became prime minister, one of the first things he did is he made his cabinet 50% women. And when asked why he did that, he simply answered, it's 2015, because it's the current year. That's why, not because that's what they're qualified for, not because he, did proper due diligence into who's right for the job. No, because they're women and it's time we act like that. Let's not forget, this is the man who changed the lyrics to the national anthem. It used to say "in all our sons command," and he wants it to say "in all of us command," to so-called be more inclusive. I mean, the guy takes his young children to gay pride parades. He's now trying to take everybody's guns. I've confronted the man, I think 6 times over the course of operating Press for Truth. You can check all that out on my channel. Just do a search for Trudeau. There you'll also find things like this. The Trudeau Foundation Exposed is a good one that I put out back in 2016, just after he was selected. So if you haven't seen any of all this stuff, guys, be sure to check it out. I wanted to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse taking on the media because I'm really interested to see how this thing is going to go, guys. If you paid any attention to the Nick Sandmann case, of when the media, totally defamed this young man lied about this whole scenario, and then he ended up suing them and winning. You know, hundreds of millions of dollar lawsuits were settled at an undisclosed amount, but I'm sure this kid is doing very, very well following that. So I will be very interested to see how this goes for Kyle Rittenhouse, because, you know, guys like LeBron James making fun of him, the media were calling him like this dangerous white supremacist and a violent guy who killed people. And I was saying from day one, I called it exactly as it is. If you just search Kyle Rittenhouse on my website, you get a couple pages, and this was like the very morning after the night it happened. I put this out. Context is important, especially in such a heated climate where people are now dying. 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse was arrested today after 2 people were fatally shot and another was injured. Rittenhouse was there protecting private property during a riot which followed the shooting of Jacob Blake. And then I did a whole bunch of follow-up stuff. So if you're not familiar with it, you know, breaking, victims file lawsuits, Kyle Rittenhouse, major developments in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. All 3 counts are going to be self-defense. Key witness in Kyle Rittenhouse trial speaks out. Guy interviewed. Australia goes full draconian with lockdowns in the unvax, and Kyle Rittenhouse trial updates. Again, if you want to bone up on Kyle Rittenhouse, you can do so just by using the search bar at Press for Truth. But I think it's going to be a similar outcome that we saw with Nick Sandmann, and good for him. He certainly deserves it. And finally, guys, this is a pretty wild story coming out of Daily Mail. The family of a top advisor to Bill Clinton, who admitted Jeffrey Epstein to the White House multiple times during his presidency, is pulling out all the stops to keep details of his mysterious death becoming public. They've petitioned a judge to prevent any pictures of Mark Middleton's death scene being released under the Freedom of Information Act. And now, local Arkansas sheriff is interpreting that to mean that he can't talk about the release of any details of Middleton's May 7 suicide. The investigation is still open. I can't say any more, says the county sheriff. His death adds to a number of close associates of the former president and first lady who have died unexpectedly, many in small plane crashes. The phenomenon has led to a conspiracy theory called Clinton body count, which even has its own Wikipedia page. Middleton's family did not disclose the cause of death at the time, but authorities later confirmed the former White House official took his own life with a self-inflicted shotgun wound at an urban farm. And, you know, again, as always, guys, I'm going to put links to all of these articles in the description below so you can check it all out. But they want you to believe that he put an extension cord around his neck, hung himself from a tree, and then shot himself in the chest with a shotgun. So hanging from a tree with a shotgun wound to the chest, just, I mean, doesn't take a whole stretch of the imagination to try to figure out how the heck that happened. I mean, you know, how does one hang himself, hold a shotgun out far enough to shoot himself in the chest with a shotgun while simultaneously hanging himself from a tree? Definitely more questionable things going on with the Clinton family. I just wanted to bring that to your attention as well, guys. Again, links to all of the stuff that we've discussed in today's video are located in the description below. Be sure to go and check it all out. Don't forget to check me out at pressfortruth.ca/donate as well if you appreciate my efforts to continuously counter all the mainstream propaganda that we're bombarded with to bring you the truth of what's happening in the world. Again, if you appreciate that, check out the links in the description below to where you can find me at pressfortruth.ca/donate. And that's all for today, guys. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to click that thumbs up button and share this video with your friends and family who need to see it the most. And stay tuned. We're going to have more video reports coming soon. This is Dan Dix reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.